Thank you so much for joining us today. Really thrilled to have you. I'm David Harris, the editor-in-chief for OpenStax, and we're so pleased you could join us for this webinar on astronomy. What we're going to do, we're going to start out with a very brief introduction of OpenStax, and then I'll introduce Andrew, and then we'll have one quick polling question. So just a little word about OpenStax. We're a nonprofit publisher based out of Rice University in Houston, Texas. We're celebrating our 10th year of publishing open education resources. So the book that we'll be talking about today, Astronomy 2E, carries a CC BY 4.0 license, meaning that you are free to share that with your students without permission. We want you to share it to the community. To date, OpenStax has published over 50 titles, primarily serving STEM, humanities, in general education courses. This year alone, we'll meet the needs of 5.6 million students and save those students millions and millions of dollars. Since publication, we've saved students over $1.3 billion. Wow. What's also very exciting about OpenStax is that it is now self-sufficient in that we're able to do annual updates and revisions of the book. And that's why we're so excited today to talk about the revision of astronomy. Astronomy, and Dr. Fraknoi will go into the numbers, is one of our most successful titles ever. It enjoys the most usage of any astronomy resource in the market today. Which is very exciting, thanks to his great work and also the community who has done such a great job adopting the resource, adapting it, and making it available to their students. So that's a little bit about OpenStax. And now I'd like to introduce our key speaker today, Dr. Andrew Fraknoi. He retired as chair of the astronomy department of Foothill College in 2017, and he now teaches courses for older adults at the University of San Francisco and San Francisco State University. He served as executive director of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific from 1978 to 1992. His work with the society included editing Mercury magazine, the University in the Classroom newsletter, and the Astronomy Beat. He serves on many boards, including the board of SETI. We are so thrilled to have Dr. Fraknoi as our lead author in astronomy. I've had the privilege of working with him for many years, and his dedication to excellent scholarship, currency, and students is unparalleled. He is a tireless advocate for astronomy education and reaching as many students as possible. So with that, I turn it over to you. It's just an honor to have you here today.
Oh my goodness, what an embarrassing introduction. Thank you, David. And hello, everyone. I see a number of names I recognize from adopters that I've corresponded with, and all kinds of names I don't recognize, which is really exciting because that means more people are using the book or are interested in using the book. Let's begin with a little poll. So Lindsay, if you could put up the poll, that will help us to understand more about who you are. So if you could answer this quick one-question poll. And you don't get to hear any jokes until everyone answers, so please go ahead. All right, we have 100%, and it looks like 68% of you are current or past users, and 66% current to past users, and 34% are looking into the book. So that's excellent. All right, great. And here we'll share the results. So everyone can see 66% and 34%. And I'm going to stop sharing. And let me bring my slides up. And let me do a quick introduction to the astronomy textbook for those of you who are new to it. But also I want to talk about the second edition for those of you who are regular users, and also a new ancillary that might be particularly helpful in your teaching. All right, so as you know, this is a free open source textbook, but we've also built quite a community around it, and I want to tell you about that community as well. The big news is that we're announcing a second edition of the book. This is particularly relevant to the printed version, which is available on print on demand. And many instructors and students do print it out, although most people, I think the majority of people use the book electronically. And I'll say more about what this means, but we've been publishing the book since 2017 and updating it, so it was time for a second edition. I am only one of 3 senior authors who has developed this book. This is us a few years ago. Dr. Sidney Wolf, the former head of the National Optical Astronomy Observatories, and David Morrison, a distinguished planetary astronomer, and I have perpetrated this book, and we continue to work together to update it. But we didn't do it alone. We had help from an enormous number of colleagues, some of you perhaps among them. We had about 70 people who helped us revise the chapters to make sure that they are as good and as up to date as possible. And then we had a number of reviewers who looked at the educational values and the educational ease of the material and suggested things. One of the really exciting things about the book, as I hope many of you know and use, is that when you use it online, there are automated links that can take students to interesting additions to the text and the pictures. We have links to apps, links to videos, links to interesting articles, profiles of astronomers, etc. And finding the most useful links, for example, is something that we had a lot of help with. Among the kinds of people who helped us was, for example, Deborah Fisher, one of the pioneers in the study of exoplanets. So we had a distinguished roster of consultants. The nice thing about having an electronic book is that it can be updated each year. We only disturb electrons, we don't kill trees whenever we update it. And so, for example, if a beautiful new picture like this amazing view from the Juno spacecraft of the weather on Jupiter, when new pictures become available, we can put them in without disturbing the sequence of things simply by updating the electronic version. But because we've done this every year, the printed version and the electronic version got out of sync. And so this is why we thought it was time to declare a second edition. In addition, we get between 25 and 50 suggestions from you, the adopters, every year. And I can't tell you how much we enjoy seeing that. A few of them are pointing out errors. We hope there are fewer and fewer of them in the book. Some people disagree with one or another technical facet of what we said. In particular, people tell us that we're not including their research, and we only wish we could include everyone's research. But a number of people make really good educational suggestions or suggest something else that we might link to, and we really appreciate that. And every year when we update the book, we also include as many of these suggestions as practical. But as I say, this year we decided to draw this clear boundary between eras and to declare a second edition. And that means that the print-on-demand paper edition starting this fall will be in complete alignment with the electronic version online and the PDF version. So whichever version your students select to use, it will be completely updated with the latest results. Here are just a few of the things that we've updated since the first edition. And these I think probably pretty obvious to most of you, planetary missions that have happened since 2017, particularly missions to asteroids and comets, including those with sample return. Certainly the incredible growth of our understanding of exoplanets. I think just this week, NASA made it official that there are 5,000 confirmed exoplanets known. And so not only the numbers, but the types of exoplanets, and particularly the fact that there are more exoplanets unlike the planets in our solar system than that are like our own planets, is something we've tried to emphasize in the updates. Certainly a major area has been gravitational wave astronomy. We're now up to, I think, over 90 gravitational wave events that have been observed and confirmed. And they open up a whole new realm of black hole masses that we hadn't known about. And I'll show you that in a minute. We've managed to get in the James Webb Space Telescope being launched. The sad news of the Arecibo Observatory getting destroyed by bad weather in Puerto Rico. Some of the plans for the Vera Rubin Observatory are in the book now. Both of the interstellar visitors to our solar system, Oumuamua and the other one, are mentioned in the book. We don't endorse Avi Loeb's idea that this is an interstellar spaceship, but we do include information about both visitors. The Event Horizon Telescope image of M87 black hole, the shadow of the event horizon. And then in discussing SETI, in discussing the search for intelligent life, we've broadened the discussion from just radio searches to include a broader sense of techno-signatures, any kind of evidence of extraterrestrial technology. So these are a few of the things that are updated since the first edition. In particular, we love including new images. This is one of my favorites, the highest resolution sunspot image from the new Daniel Inouye Solar Telescope in Hawaii, where you can see incredible detail in the sunspots. You can see the magnetic structure that defines a sunspot. And then they put a map of the United States to scale to really give students an understanding of the gargantuan nature of the activity on the sun. This is what I was referring to earlier. This is the latest image that we could get from the LIGO people, showing just the range of masses that we're now able to observe in stellar corpses. And you can see that there are some black hole mergers that get us to over 100 solar masses. And just this amazing variety of different masses that you can now detect by having multi-messenger astronomy. So this is an image that is in the second edition in all formats. The Chinese Martian rover and the landing platform. Students may ask how, wait a minute, if this is the rover on the left and this is a landing platform on the right, who took the picture? And the idea is that the rover went and deposited a little standing camera where the picture is taken from, then it moved back to the platform and took the picture. So it could be a family portrait. Among the other things that we've made sure to update in the textbook are apps. Many of you know that because of the death of Flash, many of the most popular apps used in astronomy education no longer worked. And so Jeff Matthews, who replaced me as the astronomy instructor at Foothill College, has made an enormous effort to find all the working apps in astronomy education, not just from the University of Nebraska project, but from around the country and around the world. And he and his students have actually added some of their own apps. He keeps track of that on a website called Foothill College Astro Sims, but we asked him to update all the links to apps in the textbook. So now when students click on a link to an app, or if you want to use an app as part of your teaching, everything will be up to date and working. And you'll be able to reference some new apps that weren't in the book before, thanks to the efforts that Jeff made. So we know that roughly between 250,000 and 300,000 students take introductory astronomy each year. The vast majority, as you all know, are non-science majors. And David tells me that of all of these students now, when you see who uses what textbook, we are now the #1 textbook in terms of adoptions in the United States. And that's a very gratifying result, particularly because OpenStax is a totally nonprofit organization and they don't have any reps. They don't do any advertising. They can't compete with the commercial publishers, but through word of mouth and through the community, we've been able to get the word out. I know that people have been waiting a long time for a free textbook that was at the professional level. And here are a few things that we've tried to do in the textbook. We've tried to write it in everyday language with minimal jargon and with any technical terms that we use being defined both in the chapter and in the glossary. We've tried to put in touches of humor. Those of you who know me know that it's impossible for me to give a class without making bad jokes, what today I guess are called dad jokes. And so some of those are included, but because Sydney Wolf was included, she made sure that they weren't just all dad jokes, that there were some better ones as well. And so we've tried to include a few cartoons and a number of analogies from everyday experience. We've also tried to make the book comprehensive, which means that the printed version is quite long. And the reason we've done this is that each instructor really teaches Astro 101 in her own way. We joke around that there are as many ways of teaching Astro 101 as there are instructors in the United States. But the nice thing about the electronic version is that it's completely modular. You can use only the chapters or the chapter sections you want. We've tried to make sure that chapters mostly stand on their own. And if they don't, we explain things that were in previous chapter or refer back to where they can find that explanation. So we know that no instructor in their right mind can teach the entire book in one semester. And so we understand that people are going to be assigning only those sections they want, and they can even produce their own electronic version that consists of the sections they want to use. We've tried to put in quite a bit of end of chapter material to help you. I've mentioned the glossary. There's a nice section by section summary because we know that students don't always get assigned every section. So we made sure that the summary is section by section. There's a resources section for further exploration. There are review questions, thought questions, and calculation questions at the end of each chapter. In addition, each chapter has collaborative group activities where you can assign, even in a big lecture class, a small group of students to have a brief discussion, or you can encourage them to do this over the web or in their dorms. And these collaborative group activities allow you to both rate the understanding of your students and to extend some of the work that you're doing in the main class. So the news is now that around 1,300, more now than 1,300 instructors around the country have adopted the OpenStax Astronomy book. And David tells me that over 700,000 students have used the first edition, which is, to me, really an astounding number. So the best estimate we have is that students have now saved more than $56 million on their astronomy textbook costs alone as a result. And I know that your students probably thank you, and I want to thank you for assigning this free book and using this free book. Even if you weren't in total agreement with the jokes, it was really a nice thing to do for your students. The book comes with a multiple choice question bank with more than 1,100 questions. And many of these questions require thought and not just regurgitation of facts. So we ask you not to put that question bank freely on the web, to put it behind some sort of a firewall or to assign it in such a way that it's not freely available, because everyone is going to be using this multiple choice question bank. In addition, people have asked whether there's a class management, a homework system, and the book works with a number of systems, a number of things like Canvas and Blackboard. The book is adapted to, and there's material on our resource hub, which I'll tell you about in a minute, to make it easier for to use it with that. But still, people have wondered, is there some sort of a more specific and devoted class management platform? And now there is a small partner company that works with OpenStax called Expert TA, has worked with me to produce a class management homework and quiz platform. And let me just tell you a little bit about it. It has some 1,300 multiple choice questions, some new and not in the test bank that comes with the book automatically. It has 1,200 all new true false review questions. It has an enhanced set of the numerical problems in the book, almost 600 of them now. And it works so that you can randomly vary numerical values and still have the computer graded. So two students sitting next to each other would get the same kind of problem, but with different numbers so they can't copy off each other. In addition, there is a set of graphical questions. Excuse me, I'm going to drink. Including drag and drop questions, matching questions, ranking and sorting tasks, and chapter reviews where they can move things around. And there are over 500 of those. And then all the essay questions in the book, the review and thought essay questions, are also there. The computer can't grade those. You have to grade those. But once you grade them, the grade can automatically be included in your automated grade book in this platform. So overall, they have 4,434 exercises for you to use, which I think is, enough even for the most finicky professor. Expert TA has also developed some security features that instructors appreciate. And there's an academic integrity tool suite included, which finds and helps us remove our content from answer sharing sites. There's integration with Canvas, Blackboard, and Moodle, and a number of other things which are things that you can learn more about. I don't want to take too much time with this. If you're interested in this, you can get a tour from the Expert TA folks. And the website is theexpertta.com. And then you go /astronomy if you want to go specifically to the astronomy section. This is not free. There is a cost associated with this platform, but it's significantly less than the commercial things like Mastering Astronomy. And since your textbook is free, it might be possible for students to afford this more modest fee. So again, theexpertta.com is where you might want to go. All right, but I want to move on now and talk a little bit about the community that has arisen around this textbook. There is something called the OER Commons, the Open Educational Resources Commons, on which there's a specific hub devoted to our book. That hub is free to use, and it's accessible from the instructor resources menu of the OpenStax Astronomy textbook. So there's in the menu, the top menu, when you open up the website for the astronomy book, there's the book itself, and then there are instructor resources and student resources, and you can click on those top menu choices. So from the instructor's resources menu, you can just click on a link and get to our OER Commons hub. On the hub are now 40 resources contributed by both the authors and by adopters. Among these are short videos to use with each chapter, PowerPoint slides to use with each chapter, a listing of where, for new instructors, the best sources are for astronomy images, a guide I put together to multicultural astronomy if you want to cover the astronomy of non-European and US cultures in your astronomy class. This gives you resources and videos and websites you can go to. There are PowerPoint slides for the whole book, and then there are PowerPoint slides that adopters have developed for each chapter. There's a guide for debunking pseudoscience. There's a primer for using the free Stellarium software, which is a free planetarium software that can substitute for the costly ones that people try to sell you. And there's also for beginning instructors a nice primer for teaching your first course, making up a syllabus, how you give exams, etc. Something for a beginning instructor. Just before I get off this, I should mention that one of the things I've been really annoyed by in the last year has been the incredible gullible coverage of UFO reports from military pilots in the mainstream media. Even the New Yorker and 60 Minutes had unbelievably dumb coverage of these military pilot UFO reports. And a lot of instructors have struggled to know what to say about it. So I've put together a resource guide just on skeptical views of modern UFO reports. And that's separate from this debunking pseudoscience one. But you can also find that in the Education Resources Hub. How do you answer students who swear that no one can explain these military reports? They're perfectly explainable by the nature of the infrared cameras used and other things. And check out that resource guide. All right, enough editorials, back to astronomy. A number of resources, as I say, have been contributed by adopters. I call out particularly Lauren Woolsey at Grand Rapids Community College, who has contributed her lecture slides, which are adapted from the slides we have and different, and short videos with her explaining the gist of each chapter. And if you are a beginning instructor and you want to have a different perspective on how to teach with this book, you can check out her contributions. Now, the brand new resource that has just appeared this past week on the Resources Hub is something I've put together because so many people have requested it. It's true we have a free textbook, but we don't have a free lab manual. So that I think many people teach astronomy with labs, and they struggle if they're giving a free textbook to their students. Why don't we have a free lab manual? So we don't have that, but here's what I was able to do. 21 different universities and colleges have now put their lab manual online free. And a number of NSF and NASA projects have put Astro 101 level activities on the web free. So I went through every one of them, looked at each lab, and made a subject index, an annotated subject index of all the labs organized by chapter of our textbook. So let's say you're teaching about HR diagrams, you can just go to that chapter and you see all the HR diagram labs with a one-sentence description. And then you don't have to check out all these 21 lab manuals and go through the PDFs and all that. You will know where the HR diagram labs are. And there are labs for just about every chapter. There were a few chapters for which I couldn't find any labs, but almost all the chapters have labs with them. And this listing is now 30 pages long. So there's no dearth of labs, but you don't have to read through all 30 pages. Just go to the subject you're interested in. So if you want a preview of that, it's located also at bit.ly/astronomy labs. But when you get ready to use the hub, you can just go to the hub and it's there on the hub as well. I also put together a Black Lives in Astronomy resource guide for those who want to do more about the contributions of Black astronomers of the past and the present to our science. Similarly, there's an updated guide to women in astronomy, a resource guide that talks both about the general challenges that women have faced and are still facing, and they're also the lives and work of specific women of the past and of today. And again, there's a new version as of January with many more resources and more women of color included. Sten Odenwald has contributed a guide that he put together for NASA on how students can do astrophotography with their smartphone. That's probably not the best camera for doing astrophotography, but for many students, it might be the only camera they now have. And so if you're an astrophotography fan, or if you need an extra credit, something for the lab, you might check this out. I've also put together a topical guide to science fiction stories with good astronomy. So if you want to assign a short story about black holes or the exploration of Mars or something like that, or have an extra credit project where students do a report on how good the science is in a science fiction story, this topical guide can tell you where science fiction stories are located that have some reasonable astronomy in them. And now the nice thing is that a number of these stories are available free on the web, so your students don't have to buy them. And there are links in there to all the ones that I found free on the web. Let me finish up by noting that OpenStax has put an app together, a really nice app for phones and tablets. It was really popular when it first came on. 100,000 people downloaded in the first 3 weeks. And on this app, you can do things like take notes in the margins. You can highlight different sections of the book. And this is also completely free. And since students live on their phones, they might really like having their textbook annotatable on their phone. And that means you can take the textbook with you anywhere, even reading it on the bus at the last minute before the big exam. So we hope you can recommend this to those students who like getting things on their phones. Let me just say, this has been an enormous effort by a lot of people, and I really want to thank all of you who were original adopters. We are trying very hard to bring the universe and the cost of textbooks down to earth, and we appreciate your being with us on this voyage. All right, let me stop sharing there. Great. Okay, so David, I think we can now turn things back to you and the questions, perhaps.
And so we'd like to invite you, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat, and we will respond to those questions. We'll give you a second there.
Good. And also, if you have any thoughts about how the book has been working for you, I know people have been putting lots of things in the chat in the meantime.
Great. So here's a couple questions. I'll have you take the first one.
Right.
Actually, I might know the cost. What is the cost to the students for expert TA?
It's in the $30 range.
Yeah, and
there's a special discount for high school teachers.
Yeah, and one other point I'll make about the OpenStax ecosystem partners. I mentioned the initiative is sustainable at this point. When you work with a partner like Expert TA, they give a mission support fee back to OpenStax to help maintain the titles, which is greatly appreciated. The next question is, when do you estimate the LMS cartridges will be available with the second edition? That is a great question. We actually have a meeting on Monday about building out the Blackboard and Canvas cartridges for the second edition. One other aspect of the LMS work that we're doing is we're looking to create more authentic type of assessments where the students have to reflect and describe, why they answered a question in a certain way. And we're doing that, we're moving in that direction because we know the challenges around academic integrity that was mentioned earlier in this conversation. And so a portion of those items will not be openly licensed. You'll be able to use them, but we don't want them to get out there widely in the market. Okay, are the apps with TAOER? Are the apps with TAOER?
Not sure what that means. The apps that we link students to in the book are free, right? There are no paid apps that we link to in the book. All the apps are available free on the web. And, I particularly want them to give credit to the University of Nebraska, which has an enormous astronomy education project. And Kevin Lee and his people have been doing a lot of things, and we link to that whenever we can.
Yeah, I think the other question, if someone put it in the chat earlier, is it all openly licensed? So when we link out, we try and link out to resources that are openly licensed, but they're not always openly licensed. But there'll be a clear demarcation on the link when you get to the site if it's openly licensed or not. That's a great question. Okay, and next, we've got tons of questions here. Do the links remain the different remain the different sections and the chapters remain the same. So is the organization the same? Do you want to comment on that?
Absolutely. So we particularly wanted not to disturb the organization of the book, because we know that many of you have developed syllabi and have developed ways of doing the class, which links to the sections and subsections. So nothing has changed in the organization of the book. Even, in fact, we weren't able to put in new figures we weren't able to put in new figures if we gave them a new number. We could only put in new figures if we moved one of the existing figures over to the left and put this one to the right. And that way, all the links and all the things you have about which figure you're referring to remain the same. But many of the figures are now double figures with A and B, and with the new sexy picture as B. But yes, the organization book remains the same.
Great. The next question is, I assume I can switch to the new textbook edition with OpenStax now. Yes. So we have the second edition is available on the website. You can download it today. But we also, we're keeping the first edition available. We have a very long retirement strategy for our resources. And so that will also be available for you for quite some time. Oh, and then there's an asterisk within Expert TA. You know when the Expert TA second edition will get posted?
I don't think, I think we're just updating Expert TA regularly.
Okay.
So there's not going to be any second. Now they do include the book in the software. So that I think we need to work with Expert TA. By default, I'm sure Expert TA, because it's a simple electronic transfer, Expert TA will transfer the second edition. But thank you. I'll make a note of that the Expert TA should have second edition.
Great. So the next question is a great one. Do you have any sample syllabi for a one semester overview course?
Yes.
The TOC, it feels all important.
Yes, there are sample syllabi in the Open Education Resources Hub. People have put their syllabi up, and we encourage people to do that. Actually, if you have a syllabus you like, please put it up to share with your colleagues, especially because every year new people teach the course, so things that might be obvious to you. But if you go to that primer for first-time instructors, which David Bruning put together for us, that primer has not only sample syllabi, but how you develop step-by-step a syllabus. So that's a good place to begin. And that's, again, that's on the free hub.
Great. So the next question is, when do you expect the print book to become available for the second edition? So that will be available very early over the summer. So that's in the works right now. So the next question is, will you be including the Artemis lunar mission in the second edition or later editions?
Oh my goodness. Do you believe in the Artemis lunar mission? I don't know. No, we have not included. In general, we try not to include future missions that haven't reached some sort of milestone. For example, we didn't include the LSST, the Vera Rubin Observatory, until we saw that it really was happening. And we mentioned before, we said that JWST is happening, but we didn't say anything definitive about it until it really began to happen. So we try to be on the conservative side of how we discuss future missions. We mostly try to talk about missions that are already happening.
Great. So the next comment here is, I'm hoping to teach a solar system planetary science course for adult education, 20 hours, and found the sample syllabi useful. Do you want to take a moment and talk about the adult course that you teach?
Oh my goodness. So when I retired, I didn't want to give up teaching. And so I now teach only short, fun classes for retired people. They're 6 to 8 weeks long, 2 hours at a time. And it's remarkable because every student wants to be there and I don't have to give any grades. So I shouldn't say this in front of a group of absolutely hardworking instructors, but that was my retirement. I didn't want to stop teaching, but I really wanted to stop giving grades. And yes, so I've developed a number of short courses, and I think this is a series of organizations called the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, which are available throughout the country. And many of them have astronomy classes, but it's certainly another place that you can think about teaching astronomy is in the retirement field, because more and more retired people want to keep their minds fresh.
So the next question is, are there instructions on how to integrate the book with Canvas? So two answers to that question. Yes, when you go to the instructor tab, you'll see that the different LMS, when you click on the LMS button, you will be given a set of directions on how to integrate it. It comes pre-integrated with astronomy and astronomy 2E in that we provide direct links organized by chapter into the LMS. It's called a Thing cartridge. This was very informative. I was skeptical, but much less so now. That's good news. I love this one. How has the open source textbook been received by publishers? You can imagine. You know what? Actually, this is fascinating. AEI, American Enterprise Institute, did a study of textbook prices since OER became mainstream, and they actually saw a decrease in pricing for the first time in a generation. And it's almost like the Southwest effect. When Southwest Airline goes into a town, the prices drop. So for the students, the indirect benefit of OER in general is actually greater than the direct benefit. And so that's kind of interesting.
And I'll just say that Jay Pasikoff is still speaking to me.
Okay. Okay. Do instructors have to formally adopt the text for the course in order to access? No, absolutely not. They do not need to formally adopt. When you create an instructor account, we will ask you, did you adopt it? How many students? But that's just a tracking number for us. But you absolutely, it's not required. We do know that there are situations where there are committee decisions, and you can't always get a committee to agree. And so then occasionally people will recommend it. What we have found, especially with this text, is if it's recommended one year, the next year it becomes required because the students say, wow, this is so helpful to me. Why do I have to pay $150 for the publisher text?
So maybe I can say a few other things
Sure.
about that. So number one, while it's not required that you adopt the book, and it's not even required that you register, we strongly encourage you to register at least.
Yes.
Because when you register, first of all, David can tell the nonprofit foundations that fund the organization that another school has come on and the numbers go up. So it's really important for his funding that we have as large a group of people as possible. And when you register, your students count. But second of all, if we have something coming up, an update edition or some new ancillary, we can tell you about it. You're on the mailing list and we can let you know. Whereas if you're not registered, then we can't get information to you. So and we promise not to share the addresses with the FBI, and we really don't do any commercial advertising. So we do encourage you to register if you can.
Great. So actually, here's a question. I think I'm registered, but not entirely sure. How do I know? If you go to openstax.org, on the upper right-hand corner, there's a login. You can click login, and you can put in your email address. And if you don't know your password, and you can put in your email address. If you are registered, they will send you a new password. If you're not, you can register right there. Takes 2 minutes. It's very simple. I am planning on creating an astrobiology undergrad course. Are there any OpenStax books covering elements of basic biology, chemistry, climatology, geology that you would recommend? We do not have an we don't have an integrated science book. However, astronomy is fairly modular, and most of our texts are modular, and so you can customize a version out of all the different resources that we have. The downside to that, you're not going to get a singular author voice, but it is possible. Oh, I got my department to purchase the Expert TA login, so it's totally free to students. That's a great idea.
Oh, yes, that's right. You can get a group fee from Expert TA, and then the students don't have to pay if your college can cover that cost. Yeah.
Great. Do you know if Expert TA is compatible with screen readers?
I'm not sure what a screen reader is.
That's so if the question, you're looking at the question and let's say you've got visual problems, it will it will talk to you.
I don't know, but if you email me, I will be glad to find that out for you. If that's a specific requirement you have, I'll put my email address in the chat. And let's see. Let's go on to the next question.
Right.
And I'll put my email address in the chat. I think it's also in the book.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay, it looks like that. Let me make sure I got all the questions. So I've got one final question for you. You say you retired in 2017, but you seem busier than ever. Is that true?
Well, I think this has been a labor of love. I think this is really a very exciting project. And again, I don't want to make it seem just because I'm the spokesperson that this is my project, that David Morrison, Sidney Wolf, and all the contributing authors and reviewers and people who have sent things in have really made this a wonderfully community-wide project. And I'm enjoying it. I'm still enjoying keeping up with astronomy and trying to interpret it for students. I think one of the things about astronomy is that it's small enough that we really can be a community, that a lot of people keep in touch through Astro Learner and other websites. And we're trying, I'm part of a group trying to get an education division started at the American Astronomical Society so that people who just do education as their primary job have a place that they can go. There are also meetings at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific you can go to where astronomy instructors often get together. So we do try to be a community and to support each other.
Great. So it looks like, Christopher Miller, you mentioned you had a question. I've been looking through it. I can't see the question. If you could re-put it into the chat, that would be great.
There's another question from Linda. Materials to be appropriate for outreach, such as Project Astro. So there are a lot of activities at the high school level that I didn't include in the resources guide to the labs. I have a separate resource guide for high school level activities. So I'll put that into the chat as well for people who are interested. Let's see where that is. I'm looking it up.
So while you're looking that up, let me ask the questions about LibreText. Are there any plans to update what is available in LibreText? So LibreText normally will do a. This is not. It doesn't sound nice. I don't mean. They'll do a file scrape of OpenStax once a year, and we've seen that consistently over the last few years. So I would expect to see the second edition in LibreText. The next one, OpenStax app doesn't seem to like any institution outside the US. Any plans to change that? Actually, that's something that I just learned today. So we will look into that.
Right, and actually, I was wrong. I don't have that as an easy address. That I haven't published that guide to activities. So if people are interested, contact me and I could send it to you individually. But those are not college level. All the college level activities that I knew are included in the lab guide, the subject index to labs, which is freely available.
Great. So Eric Christensen writes, he taught this book in an astrobiology course. Just FYI, Eric Christian was I believe, the first adopter of astronomy for the when it became an OpenStax title, which is kind of fun. Any plans to translate into different languages? So we're actively working on grants right now to translate the library into Spanish. And so stay tuned on that. All right, let me see. It looks like we pretty much got all the great questions, great interaction today. I think we're pretty much at the end of the session. If you've got any questions about OpenStax in general, please feel free to reach out to us at info@openstax.org, or you can reach out to me at dfh1@rice.edu. And you've put your email in too, right?
I did.
Okay, great.
In the chat.
And so the conversation with the community is something that we cherish and we find invaluable. So thank you so much for joining this webinar today. We really enjoyed it. Any final thoughts?
No, thank you, everyone, and go out and teach the universe.
There you go. Bye-bye.
Take care.